And welcome, everybody. Welcome to Beaufort County's House of Cards. I'm Mike Covert. Glad to be here with you to another Thursday night right here on the Big Patriot Radio Network. Man, what a show we've got. Had to make changes to the outline, like almost up until we went on the air here. Things changed, stories getting updated. That's all fantastic. It keeps me hopping. Great show tonight. But first, I want to say thank you to everyone tuning in all the formats, whatever format you're watching on tonight. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button, whatever it is, for more great entertainment, news, shows, and a lot more right here on Beaufort County's House of Cards and BigPatriotRadio.com. Don't forget that. Also tonight, be sure to put your comments into the chat bar, and we will. Mom and Dad checking in already. We'll get them on the screen if we can, relative to what's going on. Just a reminder to everyone to make sure when you aren't watching House of Cards live on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, where we are right now, we're live. Be sure to tune in to bigpatriotradio.com. That's bigpatriotradio.com, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And we have a new podcast lineup. Our shows are this. This is pretty cool. Monday nights at 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock Eastern times. All these times are East Coast for our viewers in the West. Monday nights at 7 o'clock and then a 9 o'clock encore playing. A new podcast group called New America Movement is on board. We had almost record-setting numbers this Monday, and that was with hardly any advertising. We're glad to have those guys on here, and I'm hoping we can get them on this show at some point and talk about things. Great show, New America Movement. Then Tuesday at 7 and then 8, a replay, an encore presentation, the Overton Report with Corey Allen. The Overton Report is just breaking the ceiling with membership and listenership and viewership and all that. Incredible stories, a lot of investigative reporting. I enjoy working with him on several things. That's Tuesday night, 7 p.m. and then an 8 p.m. encore show. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. is the week before House of Cards show. That's Thursday. Then Sundays at 7 p.m. That's Sunday at 7 p.m. We have Culture Crossroads with Andrew Southwick, another incredibly done professional podcast. And then at 8 o'clock p.m. is the Frank Friedenauer Freedom Hour. That's right, Frank Friedenauer Freedom Hour. We're still making other time slots available. So if you are a podcaster or you know a podcaster or you want to put one of your favorite podcasts, you'd like to have them on this network, give us a holler. We want to get your message out there as well. Send us an email at bigpatriotradio@gmail.com. That's bigpatriotradio@gmail.com. Let's talk about it. Anyway, some exciting news here in the Beaufort County, South Carolina Low Country. This past week, Beaufort County new auditor, David Cadd, took the oath of office. David, a good friend of mine and a friend of this network and this program. He has now been sworn in and he's working for you, the citizen of Beaufort County. He is your new auditor. Cadd was sworn into office by County Circuit Court Clerk Jerry Rosenau at the County Council Chambers. That was on the 28th, I believe, of June. And this show and me personally, we want to wish David all the best of luck and success that he will have as the new auditor. And he's going to do great things in that office. We have no doubt. He's been on the show previously. We hope to have him back. Now, let him get his feet wet and get in there and stretch around. Once he's had time to assess things and putting needed changes underway, we hope to have Auditor David Cadd back here on the show.
Introducing to you. You're on House of Cards. Live on Facebook and YouTube. It's going down now. Locked and loaded with the truth.
As you might have seen on the promo during the day for tonight's show, we do have an not in studio, but a live guest coming on tonight. South Carolina House of Representative Joe White of Newberry County is going to be joining us here a little bit later. That will be a very informative and very important conversation we're going to have. Anyway, staying at the county administration building, it was revealed this week that Beaufort County Administrator Eric Greenway has been allegedly accused of misconduct after a complaint has been filed by the 14th Circuit Solicitor's Office. The report was filed on or about the 11th of May to the Sheriff's Department. The complaint is being handled by reported and unnamed third party agency, and that is most likely due to the solicitor's office and the sheriff's department. Both they receive money, part of their budgets, from county council, and the county administrator administrates that. So, there's a little bit of ethics. It's probably not a good idea to, have them do the investigation to rule out any improprieties going to a third party. I had previously thought that this would probably be SLED, the South Carolina Law Enforcement Division. But I actually don't think it will. And with regard to the not wanting to show, any kind of ethics violation, Sheriff Tanner did have a quote in the paper. He said, "We both receive money from county council, and it's just best an independent entity from within the state be the investigative arm." So again, I thought it was going to be SLED, and I still think they will have some kind of something to do with it. But it looks like the First Circuit Solicitor's Office, and that is Solicitor David Pascoe, very well known, very across the state and other states, very well known. The Island Packet reported as of late that they would be the one handling it. So I think that's going to be interesting to see how that develops. So, during the story, Tanner also indicated to reporters from several agencies that while they received the report on or about 11 May, they did a thorough review before elevating it to an outside agency, as is professionally done. That took almost 3 weeks, in my estimation. Again, this outlet here believes that that's absolutely the proper manner in which this should be handled. So what is the complaint about? That's what everybody wants to know. What's the complaint about? And there are tons of rumors. There are tons of rumors out there. They're all swarming, but it's reported to have happened between the 9th of January and 11th of May in 2023. I have some sources close to the situation, and then I've also got some assumptions that I've made. But we're going to wait until the third-party agency comes out with anything. However, with that being said, as of tonight, we learned that a news source on Ladies Island in downtown Beaufort, Your Island News, they are reporting that the wrongdoing has to do with, at least possibly, with Greenway playing golf on Fripp Island with Elvio Tropiano of Pine Island and 2 other unnamed individuals. This past county council meeting, St. Helena Island resident Robert New, who is no stranger to the county council chambers and been a fixture at their meetings, went to the podium at county council and said there had been an anonymous email circulating, and it was titled, and I quote, "gross malfeasance by county administrator," end quote. Mr. New pressed on this subject, and he said out loud, this had been a multiple time offense by Greenway, and asked council during his 3-minute public comment, he asked council to immediately terminate Eric Greenway's contract. His contract is about, if I remember correctly, was like $210,000 a year. Robert New said, let's cancel it right now. That nothing ever came up about it. Nobody made a comment about it. It fell on deaf ears. The chairman for the evening, Vice Chair Larry McKellen, because the chairman, Joe Passman, was absent. Chairman for the evening, Larry McKellen, spoke up during Robert New's comments, and he threatened him with censure if he didn't stop making personal comments about Greenway. Interesting dichotomy there. Former magistrate judge and former DEA employee sits at the apex of the dais and rules to citizens whether they're going to be censored or not. Interesting to find out whether that has any legal or not. But that's not all we're here. Whatever the situation with Greenway is, or is found, then it must be disseminated into 3 situations. When you get into misconduct, it can be found one of or multiples of 3 ways. 1, malfeasance. Number 2, misfeasance. Or number 3, nonfeasance. Again, they could be 1, all, none, who knows, a mixture. We don't know how many counts if you want to go that way. But that's how misconduct is worded if someone is charged. It's either a malfeasance, misfeasance, or nonfeasance. So it will be interesting to see how that works out. And we'll be right here with you.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
All right. It is 15 after the hour. Let's take a check of the news.
This is VOA News in Washington. I'm Jeff Custer. The president of Belarus, Viktor Lukashenko, has said the leader of the Russian mercenary group Wagner, the mercenary Wagner group, is not in Belarus but in Russia. Associated Press correspondent Karen Shamas reports.
Lukashenko's statement followed Russian media reports saying Prigozhin was spotted in St. Petersburg, Russia's second largest city. His presence was seen as part of agreements that allowed him to finalize his affairs there. The abortive rebellion represented the biggest threat to Russian President Vladimir Putin in his more than 2 decades in power. I'm Karen Shamas.
Meanwhile, Belarusian opposition leader Svetlana Tikhanovskaya said Thursday the Wagner Group's presence in her country represented a huge threat for its people. Speaking in Rome, she said President Alexander Lukashenko would use the group to project an image of stability, presenting them as a force to protect Belarus from foreign invasion to control Belarusian people even more. She said Lukashenko's comments Thursday regarding Prigozhin being in Russia could mean the president does not know how to handle the Wagner Group.
Lukashenko is always don't know how to explain it to people, because today Prigozhin is in Belarus, next day he's already in St. Petersburg. So I think that Lukashenko himself doesn't know what to do with the Wagners, because he realizes that he maybe will not be able to control military people, but he has to obey Putin, he has to fulfill his will.
Sikhanskaya challenged Lukashenko in the 2020 election and was pressured to flee Belarus following that vote. U.S. officials confirmed the Biden administration plans to send cluster munitions to Ukraine to help in its ongoing war against Russia. The controversial weapons are fired by cannon and release dozens of bomblets across a wide area. They can cause harm long after the fighting has ended. This is VOA News. U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken Thursday said the U.S. remains focused on seeing Venezuela host free, fair, and credible elections next year, but noted last week's disqualification of the leading opposition candidate from running in next year's election is a step in the wrong direction. Blinken was speaking to reporters in Georgetown, Guyana Thursday following talks with Guyana's President Irfan Ali. Blinken was asked about a move last week by Venezuela's government in which it banned leading opposition candidate Mario Corina Machado from holding public office for 15 years.
There are a number of very practical steps that the regime in Caracas can take to demonstrate that it wants to move down that path toward free and fair election. What you just mentioned, that is the disqualification of a leading member of the opposition from competing in such elections, certainly sends the opposite message.
Blinken said the U.S. remains determined to continue international cooperation and coordination to press the regime in Venezuela to commit to free and fair elections. Officials in South Africa report at least 17 people, including several children, died due to a gas leak in a shanty town in South Africa. Kate Bartlett reports for VOA from Johannesburg.
Police are investigating whether illegal miners known as zama-zamas are to blame. Residents of the settlement have alleged the miners had been operating in the area. Authorities said a nitrate oxide gas cylinder that was found might have been used in their activities. Such gases are sometimes used to extract gold from soil brought from underground. Illegal mining is rife in Johannesburg, a city that grew out of a gold rush in the late 1800s, and where there are now many disused mine shafts. Zammers eke out a living in the dangerous warren of tunnels under the city, hoping to find gold and strike it rich. Kate Bartlett for VOA News, Johannesburg.
Tens of millions of people have reportedly signed up for a new social media app called Threads from Meta, parent company of Facebook and Instagram, as it aims to challenge competing social media platform Twitter. Threads launched Wednesday in the United States and in more than 100 other countries. In a Thursday morning post on the new platform, Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg said 30 million people had signed up. He wrote, "It feels like the beginning of something special, but we've got a lot of work ahead to build out the app." Threads is a text-based version of Meta's social media app. And AP correspondent Wyatt Grantham Phillips reports users will have to have an Instagram account to sign up.
That has caused some pushback with users because, for example, if you delete your Threads account, your Instagram account will be deleted, which is a problem. But especially on this first launch, you're able to get a ton more users interested because you're going to get those notifications that someone you're following on Instagram is now on Threads.
In Washington, I'm Jeff Custer. This is VOA News.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
And once again, we're going to have a guest coming on here in just a few moments. It's going to be South Carolina House Representative from Newberry. Joe White's going to join us. Interesting conversation. I hope you stick around. We're going to talk about judicial reform. Now, at the cusp of that, or right off the bat, as they would say, one may say, man, that's going to be like watching paint dry. But when you start digging into into a hell of a lot of problems that we've been bringing up or other shows have been bringing up, unfortunately, somewhere in them, we seem to find there's a judicial hang-up. And that has all kinds of tentacles. And that will be shown as we're listening to Lee Grenade. She was on a couple of weeks ago with part one. She'll be on next week with part two of her story. It's extremely rooted with judicial malfeasance. This has something to do with that. You know, there's all of these court cases. From little things local, you know, whether someone is interrupting a public elector body in the elected official's mind, and there's a court case, you know, no matter what it is, and it's come to find out that maybe the judge is related to or lives next door to or friends with. It's a very tangled web we have here in South Carolina in the judicial system. And Representative Joe White probably is one of, if not the most well-rehearsed and versed, rather, not rehearsed, first person in the General Assembly. And he's not an attorney. So we look forward to talking to him. Anyway, we are continuing to do investigations into the book issue that we have here in Beaufort County. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, welcome to Planet Earth. This book issue is about obscenities and pornography in books of the public school libraries, schools that are paid for with public dollars, not private schools, public schools. Anyway, those books, since last September, October, there have been a lot of folks upset about it. There were two complainants, and that's myself and Avi Zalai. Let's see here. I have got to send. Bear with me just a second here. And I've got to send, apparently Mr. or Representative White did not get the link. So just a little bit of a little issue. Bear with me as we send this to him. I know I saw earlier that Lee Grenade was watching. Lee, if you happen to have contact with him, I just hit send, and he should have it in his inbox. Back to books. Before I answer that, Al Flowers chiming in. Al, you were the man. I haven't talked to you in a while. Happy birthday, my brother. Wasn't Greenway shuttled into position after Joe P. got rid of Ashley Jacobs unceremoniously? I might add, common thread, or I think that's what you meant. We are the anointed ones. That's a great point, Al. And yes, oddly enough, he was. Joe P., that's the czar, Joe Passament, was one of the ringleaders, if not the ring leader, along with a tribe of others, including now ousted Paul Somerville and Stu Rodman, in getting rid of Ashley Jacobs. And we can go into that in detail later on. I was a huge part of whistleblowing their illegal activities that I thought alleged illegally, talking about this behind closed doors in an executive session. Anyway, you're exactly right, Al. That is what was going on with that. Anyway, back to this book issue. I've been doing so. We continue our investigation almost daily into this book issue here in Beaufort County. Specifically, I'm going to show you something. I ran across some language that I kind of stumbled upon it. It's very interesting and it's very telling. What I'm going to show you on your screen, and let's see if we can get this up here. I see our guest has arrived in the green room, and we will get with our guest here momentarily. All right, we're going to do a share screen. This is what I'm going to show you. I hope I'm going to show you. No, it's not liking me. Anyway, this language I got my hands on from divorce. You could call it divorce documents. You could call it the child support cases, whatever you want to call it. I checked with a couple of attorneys that this is considered boilerplate. Okay, boilerplate language. If anybody's gone through a divorce and child custody, you understand. I mean, it's there, except for particular stipulations, it's a lot of boilerplate. This is what was said in some documents, and I quote, "Both parties are restrained against allowing the child to see or be exposed to age-inappropriate movies, games, books, sexually explicit conduct, or other material or forms of entertainment, to include but not necessarily limited to social media and other online platforms, and shall take all reasonable precautions against the same. In no case shall the child be exposed to any X-rated or pornographic material." Now, again, that is boilerplate legalese in child support and divorce cases. Confirmed with a couple of lawyers that I happen to know. They said, yes, this is boilerplate. It's pretty standard. My question is this: if the court system mandates, and that's what this is a mandate. You will, you are, not you can. You will, you are. If they mandate that parents behave under this rule, then why are school board members allowing the children to access it in the school system? If this is not a direct confirmation to you and me that the school system administrators, teachers, and librarians that are pushing this agenda, they're pushing it as material on children and an indoctrination type lifestyle. They're indoctrinating this lifestyle. I don't know what it is, but we will see over the next couple of weeks, because now that I happen to stumble upon this, we'll see what the 14th solicitor, the attorney general, and the U.S. attorney for South Carolina feels that way. All of a sudden, things have changed, and the pendulum is swinging the other way. We will keep you abreast of what goes on with that as time goes on. This is the only place that will give you the truth, honesty, and transparency anytime, all the time.
Introducing to you. You're on House of Cards, live on Facebook and YouTube. It's going down now. Locked and loaded with the truth.
All right. Well, I want to introduce our guest this week. He is a veteran of the U.S. Air Force and former small business owner, current South Carolina House of Representative for Newberry County, married to his bride, Linda, for, I understand, more than 55 years. Father of 2, grandfather of 6. He's a proud member of the South Carolina Freedom Caucus and is known as the oldest freshman ever to be elected to the General Assembly at the young age of 76. Representative Joe White, welcome to Beaufort County's House of Cards.
Hey, good to be here.
How are you today? And let me first say thank you for your service. And how are you today, sir?
I'm great. How are you?
Better than I deserve.
Yeah, me too. Enjoy being here.
How are things in the beautiful part of this state in Newberry County?
Well, everything's nice today in Newberry. It did not get to 95. Only got to about 88. And so
oh, wow.
We've had a great day. The last couple of days I've been up in the mountains, so it was a little bit difficult coming back from the nice, cool, crisp mountain air to the Midlands of South Carolina. But things are good in Newberry. Thank you.
Fantastic. I really appreciate you being on this show. And Representative, you have gained a reputation as being one of the leaders of the judicial reform movement here in South Carolina. And I know that's got to be a badge that you wear proudly.
It is. 18 months ago, I began to tell people that my biggest frustration really in entering into this state legislative race was looking at how we select judges. I've done a lot of investigation. I've spent a lot of time dialoguing with a variety of people, victims, judges, prosecutors, defense attorneys, just a host of people trying to figure out how this whole thing works and what we can do to make it better. So,
awesome. I know in doing a little bit of research, I know that the judicial, pretty much what you just said, judicial reform was a landmark for you coming into this. I understand that Newberry County Sheriff Foster gave you, he was like a coach and gave you words of encouragement and all of that. And that apparently that was a big part of you gathering the information, and what a great source, the sheriff. But when you have all of the things that, we as political figureheads, why did you choose judicial reform over something else? Not that that's a bad thing, just why that?
Well, because I'm a novice and didn't have any better sense. Really, the things that when you knock on doors, the number one issue for everybody in South Carolina is roads. We want better roads. And that's something you see every day. But, just from a principled perspective, the people who end up either being victims or else ending up in court in some shape, form, or fashion, whether that's probate court, magistrate court, doesn't matter. Most people don't have much concern about that. But when I saw how we do this in South Carolina, and I've got a friend that actually sent me a book that he wrote that explains how all 50 states do their judicial system. When I looked and saw how we do it so differently from anybody else, I said, this can't be right. It can't be that South Carolina is the only place that does it this way, and we must have the best system. So that really began a path. And like you said, I went and talked to Sheriff Foster, and he said, what's your number one issue? And I said, judicial reform. And he lit up. And so, he's our longest serving sheriff in the state of South Carolina. He's been sheriff in Newberry County 35 years. And so, he gave me some guidance, and I happened to have a circuit court judge that was very kind to me and gave me some advice. He also felt like that the way we do it is not actually the best. So I just began a process, and as I began to dig into that hickory nut to try to find something in there, it just got bigger and bigger and bigger as I dove in to try to find out how we do it and why we do it and what it really is like. So that just began a long journey for me.
Good. We have, you'll see on the bottom of your screen, sir, that different people may either ask you questions or chime in, and you see Lori Williams right there thanking you for your fight and everything you do. Representative, because the majority of the General Assembly are attorneys, and I don't know what the percentage is, but it's the majority with both houses are attorneys. I would think it'd be common sense that judicial reform either is or could be wildly unpopular.
Well,
have you found that to be true?
Well, let me correct you a little bit. It's not the majority. It's only 32%.
32%.
0.2% of our population in South Carolina are attorneys, but 32% of our representatives are attorneys. It's 43% in the Senate. It's 27% in the House. Now, that in and of itself should tell you that we don't have representative government in South Carolina.
Right.
When 32% of your representatives are from one group of one population, and only 0.2% of the population is that, then they're being overrepresented. I'll just say that. But yeah, it's a tough hill to climb, and it makes it even tougher because they have tremendous power and tremendous money in the state of South Carolina. One of my closest friends told me, he said, "Joe, there's no sense in fighting that fight. All the money, all the power is with them. You can't win that fight. You're just wasting your time." In fact, I had a great attorney who is a legislator who told me when I talked to him, he said, "Joe, don't waste 2 years trying to fight that fight. It's an impossible battle."
Wow. Thank you for correcting me. 32% of the entire General Assembly.
That's correct.
Let me ask you, the House Judiciary Chairman, Weston Newton, real nice fella. He's from right here in Beaufort County, is an attorney. Yes. Do you have support from the chairman of the judiciary in this type of battle?
Oh, quite the contrary. Quite the contrary. In fact, we were debating our new bond reform legislation, and the bond reform legislation has in it that if you're out on bond or out on bail and you commit another violent felony, that you have a mandatory minimum sentence of 5 years. And it said in there that the judge may make that be served consecutively. Well, when I saw that may in there, I wrote an amendment that just changed it to must. And when I wrote that amendment to change it from may to must, in other words, some people might not know the difference between consecutive serving and concurrent serving. But if you're in if you're out on bail and you got 4 years to serve and you commit a crime, if the judge says it can be served concurrently, you've only got 1 more year if it's consecutive. So I thought it should say they must serve 5 years. When I said that, I was attacked by the chairman of the Judiciary Committee. And I was asked, why didn't you come to the Judiciary Committee and talk to us about this? And, it's just a really nasty little few minutes of debate. And it gave me an opportunity to explain to the rest of the legislature how bad our judicial system is. And so I spent my 5 minutes of time explaining how we do it. Most legislators did not know how we do the Judicial Merit Selection Commission. They really did not understand that.
That is the infamous JMSC that I'll mention that here in a minute.
That's correct.
Sir, that the Murdaugh trials brought national attention to the state, the entire Low Country, even more so. And I think a lot of that attention was not favorable, as it speaks to some of the things that you're talking about right now. Is the Murdaugh Entertainment event helping, or is that hindering your efforts?
Let me go down that trail. Let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
As you know, 18 months ago, I started talking to people about this. Everybody I've ever talked to one-on-one, except one defense attorney, tells me that the system is absurd and it needs to be changed. But if you go back, when I started campaigning, I was told it's a wasted cause. You don't need to do that. And I happen to believe in an almighty God who is powerful. I think the only reason I was elected is that. I mean, a 76-year-old who's not from Newberry originally, who had no political backing, who his opponent was supported by 17 establishment Republicans, no name recognition in my county. The impossibility of me winning this race is astronomical. But after that, suddenly our state Supreme Court overruled the legislative abortion law. That brought a lot of attention from people that are concerned about abortion to this issue. How did we, as a conservative state, end up with 3 Supreme Court justices who overruled the legislators' desire to change our abortion law? Then after that, we have the Murdaugh, whatever you call it, the whole debacle. And for the first time ever, we're looking back at 75, 80 years of need for judicial reform because of how they ran everything for all those years. Then you top that with, in April, finding out that one of our JMSC members had a murderer released who was supposed to serve a minimum of 35 years in prison, got him out of prison 16 years early against our Constitution and against the law, using a judge that was retiring the next day and a solicitor. So that brought another big thing. I say all those things happened by the grace of God. I mean, the power of God.
Yes, sir.
I couldn't have made any of that stuff up. But all of a sudden, it became a major. It was a good campaign issue because of all of it. And so, you know, I just keep thinking that that there's something much more powerful, much more important than me behind what's going on.
Amen. And I have a couple of questions. You're referring to the Gerard Price case. We'll get to that in just a second. Let me take a time out, and let's go backwards a little bit for the listener, the viewers. If they don't have an understanding about how our judges are selected, not elected, could you tell everyone, how do you become a judge in South Carolina?
Well, to become a judge in South Carolina, you submit your resume to the Judicial Merit Selection Commission. That is a group of 10 people, 5 of whom are appointed by the Speaker of the House and 5 are appointed by the Senate. Currently, there are 10 people on that committee. 8 of them are criminal defense attorneys. So 8 criminal defense attorneys look at the resumes of people that want to become judges, and they make the determination about whether those people would be qualified to serve or not. They don't have to tell the person why they deemed them unqualified. And once they make that determination, they send a maximum of 3 candidates. Let's say there's 9 people that apply, and let's say that all 9 of them are considered qualified, but then the Judicial Merit Selection Commission sends 3 names out to the General Assembly to vote on. They already, I can't say that. It appears that they already have selected the one that they want to be the judge. In other words, if they send us out 2 mongrels and a thoroughbred, you know, the chances are we're going to vote for the thoroughbred. You know what I'm saying? So they have kind of hand selected who they want to be the next judge. And that happens. To me, that whole process is so demeaning to a professional, either already a judge trying to move to a different court or a lawyer that wants to become a judge. The idea of having to go through this process, and they don't have to tell the person why they deemed them unqualified. All they have to do is say, you're not qualified. And I think the best judge that we had nominated for the Supreme Court is Tripp Anderson from up in the Greenville area. And he was told he was qualified, but he wasn't one of the 3 that was put out. If he had been put out to the General Assembly, I'm convinced he would have won in a landslide. But he's an ultra-conservative judge up in Greenville. And so his name was never submitted to us for an opportunity to vote. But the bottom line is 8 criminal defense attorneys get to decide who they want to send forward for the possibility of a judge. 6 of those criminal defense attorneys either serve in the House or the Senate. And so they have a lot of sway with their friends in the House and the Senate to get them to vote for the persons that they want them to vote for. So it's a pretty rigged system, but it's rigged by criminal defense attorneys on the JMSC.
And I think it's safe to say, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's safe to say that hey, I'm not saying there are any crooked attorneys out there, but if there were, this is a prime arena for payback being needed. That's what this has been set up for, in my opinion. That there almost isn't anything more easy to see that our system of selecting judges could have the possibility of ethics violations. It's too easy, in my opinion. It's funny, Ginger, you see her, Ginger Dunn has a comment there on the screen. I agree with what you said and what Ginger is saying here, that when I was on county council or past that, anytime someone says, and I agree with you, anytime someone says, you can't do that, or you shouldn't do that, or don't talk about that, that usually means to me that there's something there that needs to be looked at, talked about, or investigated. So anyway, I thought I'd get that out there. This network has started a multi-series, if you will. We've had one. We're going to have probably at least 2 more series on the Lee Grenade family court case. I know you're aware of it, and it certainly appears to align with what you have indicated is wrong in the South Carolina court system. Now, with respect to family court, what opportunities do you see to ensure that children's best interests and safety are the overarching priority of a family court judge?
That's a tough question. For one thing, if those people that are putting their name forward, if we had an opportunity to actually dialogue with them about what their thoughts are about child protection, about who should have control of the child, which we don't. We can't ask them direct questions. We can talk to them in general, but it's that old thing when you see on TV when somebody's up for the Supreme Court and they ask them a question, how do you feel about, let's just say, Roe v. Wade? Well, I can't talk about that so that's what happens right now. Now, if us legislators, first of all, if nobody on the JMSC was a lawyer legislator, then they would have to be trying to get the votes directly through the General Assembly. We would be able to go one-on-one with those people a lot of times and find out how they really feel. We'd be able to do our own background check on those people. Right now, the only people that know anything about those people is the JMSC until they're brought to the floor for a vote. Then we know the 3 names that are being considered. So right now, and let me talk about that just a little bit, because I think the judge that was instrumental in the Lee Grenade case, I'm going to use a term that some people are familiar with, some are not. Lawyer shop judges. We know that in Rock Hill, there was a case up there, a murder case in Rock Hill just this spring, where a killer, a murderer, confessed, obvious murder, was held without bond until trial. Second time he went for a hearing, held without bond until trial. Third time he went to a hearing, he had changed lawyers, had found a lawyer that was on the JMSC, and Laurie's talking about it right now. That's it. That's what I'm talking about. And he waited until he had the right judge. So first of all, you got a JMSC member who waits till they get the right judge. And when he came up that time for a bond hearing, that judge released him on bond, $250,000 bond. He's a dangerous person. he had just brutally murdered a former policeman, and yet because they shot judges, he was able to do that. So let me go to Lee's case. The judge that was put down there to take her case was a friend of people down there that they knew they would get a good decision out of her. I know the lady. She's a nice lady, but there's no doubt that she was moved down there for that particular case. She's from my county. Mm-hmm. Nice lady. But there's no doubt in my mind that the reason she was put down there was to make sure they got a favorable decision. So that the whole system is just so it's so incestuous, and one of the things that I don't like to really try to push, but there is there's a Republican club down there, there's a Democrat club down there, but there's also a lawyer club down there, and that lawyer club within the House, they are pretty doggone tight, and that lawyer club decides who all of our judges are going to be, and it's just pretty. I can't prove it, but it seems like that lawyer club has much more power in the courtroom than they should. I'm going to give you one example. I can't give you names, but I have a friend who's an accountant. He had a client who was an attorney. The year before that attorney was elected to the legislature, that client's entire practice took in about $500,000. The next year, after he was elected to the legislature, he took in over $2 million in revenue. Now, he didn't get to be that much better an attorney. But for some reason, he was used a lot more and his fees were a lot higher after he was elected to the legislature.
Yeah.
You go from 500,000 to 2 million. That's a pretty good jump in 1 year. And the only difference being that he was elected to the state legislature. Yeah.
I tell you, when I was in business, if I could have raised my margins to hit those numbers that fast, wow. How about that? You know, the lawyer club, when I was on county council here in Beaufort County, I had the opportunity to, they had I guess it was the state lawyers, the club. They had their annual meeting on Hilton Head, where we happen to have a statewide county association, the South Carolina Association of Counties meeting. So, because I'm friends with a couple of them, I got to go into some of their meetings. There were some there who, on the floor of the House or the Senate, fight like tigers, but they're absolute buddies talking about cases. They didn't know who I was. And I was just shocked. I was just shocked. I was like, well, this is a game. This is a game. And that's not right. This is people's lives. We talked about, and I guess I don't want to put words in her mouth, but I believe Lori, I guess this is what she was talking about, was the Gerard Price case. Is that correct?
No, her brother.
No. Okay.
Lori's brother was the victim of the horrible murder that I was talking about. And he was the suspect was being held without bond and was held without bond twice. But when the suspect got the right attorney and the attorney got the right judge, that murderer was put out on bond the next day.
I got you. So I think that's maybe the next one I was going to talk about. The Gerard Price case, correct me if I'm wrong, but Price allegedly, I guess, or maybe he's...
No, not allegedly.
He did. Okay.
Cold-blooded murder in a nightclub in Columbia.
Okay. It was a University of North Carolina student athlete, Carl Smalls Jr.
Right.
So the stories that I got was that witnesses said that Smalls Jr. was caught in the middle basically of a gang shootout. The leader of the Bloods gang, and this is what I'm hearing, who was Gerard Price, stood over him and shot him twice, execution style, while he was on the ground. Sentenced to 35 years in prison, supposedly to be served without the possibility of parole. And then just today, I learned that your fellow House representative, Democrat, and I guess minority leader, Todd Rutherford, had negotiated or orchestrated and executing a shorter sentence for this gentleman. Is that
Okay.
correct and accurate?
Kind of. Gerard Price was put in prison for 35 years, minimum sentence of 35 years for the murder of Mr. Smalls. Minimum sentence, you cannot get out on parole. Good behavior, it doesn't matter. You can't get out. 35 years minimum. So back in December, the day before Casey Manning was to retire as a circuit judge, Todd Rutherford went to him, and the solicitor of Richland County agreed to sign a closed order to allow this man to be released from prison. Impossible to do. It's against the Constitution, against state law, but somehow they did it, and it was a sealed document. Nobody could. So our Attorney General, Alan Wilson, went to our Supreme Court and said, we violated the Constitution, violated the law. I want this unsealed, and I want you to look at it. Our Supreme Court ruled that the man had to be locked back up, so they issued a bench warrant for Gerard Price back in April. They said they knew where he was at the time, but he's still on the loose. He's somewhere in the world as a free man right now because he was let out of prison 16 years early illegally by some type of agreement that was agreed upon by Casey Manning and Todd Rutherford and the solicitor. So nobody knows the details. I think Alan Wilson should have a grand jury to determine if there's anything illegal that was done in there. But the man is out. And I'm going to tell you one other thing about Gerard Price. You may not know, but in Columbiana Center last summer, there were 9 shoppers that were shot, caught between some gunfire with 2 different groups of men that were shooting at each other. 9 civilians were injured. Nobody's killed. One of those shooters was Gerard Price's son, who the next day hired Todd Rutherford to be his attorney. So the same, I mean, this whole thing is just, it's almost silly. Now I'm going to say something. Todd Rutherford is a very smart, very charismatic, very charming man.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And if you know, he's a good attorney, but the fact that over and over again, he seems to be in the middle of some of these things that are somewhat controversial.
Right.
Somebody needs to be looking into why it is that he always ends up in the middle of these things.
And isn't he on the JMSC right now?
He is. He's on the JMSC.
See, that even adds.
Let me throw one other piece at you. And I haven't talked very much about this, but when we did the budget this year, when the House presented their budget, I had asked for $300,000 for my sheriff's department in Newberry County in a proviso. I'm not a big fan of earmarks, but my sheriff wanted some money for the police department. And so I put $300,000 and it was approved. We approved the budget, sent the budget to the Senate. The Senate added a bunch of stuff in, about $200 or $300 million worth of stuff for them. When I saw the budget come back, I voted against the second. I voted for the first and voted against the second one. My $300,000 was still in there. The Friday that our conference committee was to meet to start discussing how to reconcile the Senate's budget with the House budget, my $300,000 for my share is still in there. On that Friday, the Speaker of the House appointed Todd Rutherford to the conference committee from the House side. The next Tuesday, when the budget came out, there was one police department whose money was taken out of the budget. Newberry County, $300,000. I'm not saying it, but I've texted the Speaker. He's in Ireland right now. I've texted him to try to get him to explain to me why there was one piece of police money that was taken out of the budget. And it happened to be Joe White's from Newberry County.
I just shake my head. It's disgusting. So Rutherford is on the JMSC, and isn't Manning also on the JMSC?
No, Manning is a retired judge.
Okay.
He is not on JMSC. He may have been at some point. No, I don't think he was ever on the JMSC.
Okay. So anything, and we talk about it a lot here, but anything that, and you just did, anything that happens in the House has to go over to the Senate and vice versa. In the Senate, there are some power figures, irregardless of party, but there are some power players, people like Setzler, Davis, Massey, Hembry, Rankin, Hutto, Harpootlian, Malloy, and some others. They're all attorneys. They're all very good attorneys. Is there any ounce of support from any of those Senate attorneys in real judicial reform?
I'm going to shock you. There is. And you know who it
Really?
is? You know who it is?
No.
Harpootlian.
Tom Davis. I would say Tom Davis.
Harpootlian. Dick
Dick Harpootlian
is probably going to introduce a sister bill in the Senate in January to stop allowing the JMSC to be done the way it's done. Dick Harpootlian believes that we should have 3 equal branches of government.
Okay.
And he knows that we really just have one major branch of government in South Carolina. I mean, 1895, when our state people put together the Constitution, you know, it was a bunch of old white men that put together the Constitution. They wanted to make sure that all the power was in the legislature. And so when we put together the Constitution, we made sure that the legislature actually controls the judicial branch too. And it has ever since 1895.
Right.
So, you know, the legislature controls the judiciary. So we just have 2 branches. And as you know, our form of government has a very weak governor. About the only thing the governor can do is veto some things and do some PR. But all the power is in the legislature. And so because of that, and the fact that we control the judiciary, it's a tough nut to crack.
I am going to say, because I have spoken at great length about old Poot, who again I think is a fantastic lawyer. I don't agree with him on a lot, an awful lot, but I would not have guessed that if there was money on it. I would not have guessed Dick Harpootlian. But you know, maybe, just maybe, he has enough. I mean, his theatrics are very impressive, and he's been doing it a long time. Maybe he can swing some folks over his way. So I look forward to hearing that. Hopefully that battle will come up in the next session. Representative, how can viewers watching this, what can they do? What can concerned citizens do to express, whether it's support, concern? You tell me, what is the best way that people watching this can become involved in a positive way?
We have got to elect principled people that will not be drawn into the swamp and become part of the problem. And let me just say, I mean, I could tell you from personal experience, from the first day of freshman orientation. Think about it. You get down there and they know you by name. Everybody down there knows. They've looked at the pictures. They know you by name. They tell you how great it is that you ran. They tell you how great you are. If you're a young person and all of a sudden everybody's telling you you're the most wonderful thing that ever happened. And then that night they took us to Williams-Brice Stadium, and we got to meet Cocky, and the University of South Carolina lobby group is down there telling us how, and the leadership of the House is down there telling us how great we are. We end the night going over to the end zone and having our pictures and our bio up on the Jumbotron as they play fabulous music. And so you think a young person who comes in principled and I'm going to do the right thing, but the first day in freshman orientation, you leave there begin to think, this is pretty cool. Well, I didn't think get on, you know. And then when you actually start the session, on the first day of session, these judges are standing out there at the elevator begging you to vote for them and telling you. And when you go to your desk, you got 8 or 10 different gifts, all of them under $25, umbrellas, candy, popcorn. And you're given a great lunch by a lobbying group. You're given At night, there's 3 different places where you can go for parties, and you can take the black SUVs from the State House to one party, and then another party, and then another party. They've rented the Capital City Club, they've rented the Palmetto Club, they've rented the Convention Center. You think about how a young,
impressionable
person,
yes, sir,
how hard it is to not fall into that trap of saying, so. As you know, there are still 16 members of the Freedom Caucus that refuse to sign that oath to join the Republican Club. Now we have legal right to have our own caucus. We need to if we had 28 members in the State Freedom Caucus, we can control what goes on at the State House. But it's a tough job. But we need to find candidates that are willing to fight the fight, swim upstream, stay principled. And we can change things at the South Carolina State House. So can I give my telephone number?
Oh, that's up to you. That's up to you. Sure thing. Folks, write this down.
If you're interested in running, if you know anybody that's interested in running, let us know about them. Let us talk to them. Let us find out whether they have what it takes to really get in there and stand firm in what's right for the people of South Carolina. So my phone number is 803-429-9423. That's 803-429-9423. You text me, call me. I'll sit down with anybody. I'll come and talk to any group in the state. If you get 5 people together, I'll go to wherever I have to go to talk about the things that are necessary. But we have got to, the way we turn this nation around is to get people with integrity to begin to run for office. And if they'll run for office and get elected, then they become part of the solution instead of continuing to have this problem that we've got. It's a problem. And I told you what happens at the State House. Imagine what goes in Washington, D.C.
Oh, gosh, Representative, we could talk about this for a while. On the county council level, it's very, very minor. But I saw some of it there. I didn't really notice it until I was leaving, and I wasn't a spring chicken getting into it. But when I was leaving, all of a sudden they were like, "What's your name?" Well, so I was like, "Wait a minute." I ran for Congress quite a few years ago.
Yes,
and spent a lot of time in D.C., especially at the Republican, the Capitol Club there, in the boiler room, watching what went on. And it is unbelievable how crooked and deceitful and undermined and slimy that gets. And I'm not doing this because you're here, but I applaud you for speaking up. And I can only say that I agree with you that maybe God put you in this spot, being a 76-year-old freshman who's not going to be, easily, maneuvered or mind twisted as a 30-year-old, seeing all those things you saw. Maybe there's a reason for that. And I applaud you. I appreciate it. I did want to go back to this question I saw come up. I'll put it back up here. Renee Armstrong writes, Representative White, what about Judge Kimmons? That would be Mandy Kimmons out of either Dorchester, Berkeley, or Charleston, whichever, who resigned from the House 12/21/2021 on July 8th, 2022. We did a paid consultation, informed us of her being a family court judge. I think I know what that's about, but is that anything that can be talked about here?
Well, it was done illegally. You have to be out of the house for at least a year before you can run. And they made up some new special rules to make it legal for her to be a family court judge. Hey, look, I tell you who needs. Have you ever had David Pasco
on? No, but I know
David,
and he is fantastic. I would love to have him on here.
Well, let me tell you, he did a presentation down in Orangeburg a 3 weeks ago, and it is shocking the things that he tells people, and he's not ashamed of it, about how these things are rigged and how these things are, orchestrated. There was a judge down in the Low Country that had been there 15 years, and he made a decision that went against a major person in the House of Representatives. when he came up for re-election, he was told by the JMSC he was no longer qualified, and the person who he went against got his cousin appointed as the new judge. There's one over in Florence, very similar, where a judge made a decision that went against somebody that was very powerful in the House of Representatives. And when that person came up for the JMSC, she was told that she was no longer qualified. And that House member got his wife put on the court. I mean, Pasco can tell you some things that are unbelievable about how this whole, and it's all the way from magistrate to probate. This lawyer club controls it all. They control magistrates. They control probate. They control circuit. They control administrative law. It's all controlled by this lawyer club, and we've got to break through that. We, the people, have to figure out a way to stop allowing this lawyer club to run our state. That's all I'm saying. So,
well, you're fantastic, Representative. Again, thank you for your service to this country, your service to the state and your county. You are always welcome to come back anytime to the House of Cards. We greatly appreciate you. And Representative Joe White, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming on here, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Stay in touch with us. All right. It is 10 minutes past the top of the hour.
Locked and loaded. Let's go. Big Patriot Radio. Blues, news, country pop, and classic rock.
I tell you, that's a great guy. That's the first time he and I have talked, and I feel like I could sit and talk to him for hours. Just learning things that, I used to say about a few people that, if I could learn half of what he forgot, I'd be a pretty smart guy. And that was some of the success that I had in business. It wasn't that I was any smarter than anybody else, but I knew to get the right people around me made me look real good. You don't get this sexy by doing it alone. So I had to get good people like Joe White around me. And he's right, folks, no matter where you are, whatever state you're watching, and we're shown all over the country. If you want to run, you want to make a difference, you have to run for office. If you're in South Carolina, I'll put up Representative White's number again. There it is. He gave you the invitation to call him. I'm sure you can contact any one of the members of the House Freedom Caucus. The chairman is Adam Morgan, another fine, upstanding guy. He and his brother actually are in the House together. But Adam Morgan is the chair, I guess you call him, president, chair, whatever, of the House Freedom Caucus. So get involved. If your state does something different, if you're in a Commonwealth like Virginia or Pennsylvania or Kentucky, and you do delegates, House delegates, not House representatives, whatever, it's all the same thing. If you want to make a difference, then be the difference. Don't sit back and twiddle your thumbs. How often do we hear, well, this is South Carolina, it's a red state, I really don't have to get involved? No, that's not true. That is not true anymore. We live here in the 1st Congressional District, and this is a hard purple, and that's changing. So there needs to be, and I'm just going to speak for my own congressional district or my own House district or state Senate district. We need strong people with those values to get involved. So we'll go back through these. Absolutely, Lori. People's lives aren't games. You are exactly right. He is one of the good guys, Craig. Absolutely. There's another one. And didn't Mandy Kimmons work for the solicitor's office when she started? I couldn't tell you that. She doesn't live in my district or vice versa. But I do know that in doing some reading that I'm doing right now on a particular court case that she's involved with, both as attorney and judge, which doesn't even smell right. I've got more reading to do. I got more investigating to do. Anyway, moving on. This past week, Beaufort County saw its second death involving an alligator in 12 months. That's right. At 9:30 on the 4th of July, a 69-year-old female in Spanish Wells of Hilton Head Island was found at the edge of a lagoon bordering the golf course. And when first responders arrived, they found the alligator guarding the woman. Like, if you came after me when I have some fried chicken, I will guard it. The over 9-foot gator was eventually moved and euthanized. Allegedly, the woman had been walking her dog that morning. The dog was not harmed in this story and found safe nearby. So I've been thinking about this at length, and I wondered, what problem do the alligators have with humans? We sat back and wondered, is this a race thing? You know, do alligators hate the human race? Then as I was preparing for the show, I thought, maybe this is a hate crime, and we should alert our House and Senate representatives like Joe White. Then it occurred, why is this happening in Beaufort County? Like, does county council or the school board, have they done something to really piss off the alligators? I mean, you know, we've been fighting the liberal left around here and the progressive socialists like the iniquitous beast of Ladies Island and her miscreant imps, but this is taking it to a whole new level. I mean, this is a whole new level. So while the subject of this is no laughing matter, and there was some satire there, I think I can accurately give a representation of something. The representation is this, folks. We want our friends and our family to come visit us here in the South Carolina Lowcountry. There are signs everywhere. And these signs, see if we have one of those signs. These signs are everywhere in the Lowcountry. And I will pull this up for you. And share this. These signs are everywhere. Alligators may live here. Look in the middle. Be gator safe. Do not approach, feed, or harass alligators. Yada, 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 yada. So for, you know, if you think it's cute to snap a pic of you and a gator or do a TikTok for a gator, you know, whatever you do with TikTok, do a tick or a talk. If you want that to go viral, you know, whatever, but that may cost you your life. And for God's sake, don't feed the animals. Don't feed the gators. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to do a how-to. This is Mike Covert's how-to not get killed by a gator. Please share this with your friends and visitors and family members. Number one, do not go near an alligator that you see. Don't go near it. Number two, do not go near the water's edge of a lagoon, a pond, a river. Guess what, folks? They live there. If you think they aren't, they are. Do not let your dogs, especially the little cute ones like I have, these little poodles and little dogs. Never let them go near the water's edge of lagoons, ponds, rivers. To an alligator, they look like an incredible, wonderful meal. I wonder how did they find that out? I don't know. Anyway. Number four, never, ever, ever feed the alligators. Not only is that a federal crime, it is, well, with a lack of better words, it's outright dumb. A fed gator, you see it here, I believe it says, a fed gator is a dead gator. That's right. Once they've been fed, they become aggressive. And once they are aggressive, DNR or the guys from the show on TV, whatever it's called, you know, shoot them. That's what they do. They'll come shoot them. They end their life. Number five, if you have a large alligator, folks, that's becoming a nuisance on your property, do the smart thing. Call DNR, call the sheriff's department, and they'll get DNR and ask for it to be relocated. There are some great gator guys and gals out there that'll wrestle and the little rascal to death and go take him to a safe property away from civilians. They don't have to die. And that's it. It's simple. We want you to enjoy your stay and the vacation. We want you to spend your money here. We want you to eat our food, buy our clothes, buy our fruits and vegetables, et cetera, et cetera. We don't want you to have a great vacation ruined by having to spend time at one of our wonderful emergency rooms. I mean, they're great and all, don't get me wrong, but let's spend your money somewhere else. The previous attack before this lady we mentioned that just happened, it was in August 2022 when an 88-year-old woman was attacked and killed by a gator in Sun City while outside by the lagoon. Prior to that one, the last death by gator was in 2018 in Sea Pines on Hilton Head Island when a 45-year-old woman and her small dog were pulled into a pond after the gator lunged and grabbed a hold of the leash. Folks, live your best life, but stay away from the gators. They were here first. Let those predatory, dinosaur-looking era animals do their thing without human intervention. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I hate to hear it. I guess in looking at all that, those last three have all been women over 40 years old. Nah, I won't go there. Sadly, South Carolina citizens have no one to call to remove predatory court gators. That's good. That's a good point, Ginger. That is a good point. I giggle because I liked how you worked that in. That was pretty cool. And that's going to do it for us this week, folks. Be sure to stay tuned. Next week, we're going to have Lee Grenade back on as she gets into part 2 of her family's story. And we'll pick it up right where she left off in the first week. We've got a lot more to talk about. We'll talk about some of the book issues. We've got a big meeting coming up. I don't want to say when, where, who, and all that, but there is a large meeting, large being important, with some legal officials here very shortly, where this subject will come up. We'll give you a heads up on that. If there's anything going on with Pine Island, we'll be sure to let you in on that as well. Other stories that come about, we're going to bring it to you here first. We appreciate you being here. Don't forget BigPatriotRadio.com. That's BigPatriotRadio.com. 4 nights a week, there are podcasts on there. Monday, the New America Movement. Tuesday is the Overton Report with Corey Allen. Thursday is this show right here, House of Cards. Sunday, Andrew Southwick's Culture Crossroad. And then at 8, Frank Friedenauer's Freedom Hour, all week long. Check it out at BigPatriotRadio.com. We look forward to talking with you then. Until next week, good night, everybody.
Until the day I die.
call